Okay, with another episode here with Mango Come Out of the Rain.
Yeah.
And
refreshing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's really refreshing. I like it. I like the rainy season. But I wanted to ask you, you said you were in Japan for quite a while, right? And you actually had a motorcycle there, so I figured you had a motorcycle there. You must have been there for quite a while. So can you tell me like what your life was like in Japan? And
with Japan, that's where the ship was home ported in Yokosuka, Japan. The Midway was, and so basically, again, I didn't want base housing because it was nasty, and I had a young wife at the time, and my son Kurt Jr. was born in Japan.
Oh, really? So your wife was in Japan with you?
Yeah. Well, I remember at the beginning of this series, the military I just got married, and the military gave us an option of leave mama home, and you only have to do 3 years, or we'll pay and you can take her to Japan and subsidize housing and what have you, but it'll cost you another year. And so, of course, you know,
seems kind of fair. I mean,
you just got married, so you got.
Now they pay for her flights to get her there and everything.
Yeah, they take care and get her there, but it costs you another year to stay on the boat.
And how about where she lived? Did they help pay for that, or that was up to you?
Well, the options were you had military housing, but you had to stay in line because there's way too many people for housing. So they would subsidize a little bit if you lived off base and that. And of course, I was going to live off base anyway because I was into the. You know, it doesn't matter if I'm here or Japan, wherever I'm at, I'm into the locals, and I never live. You know, I'm not going to live on a foreign land and live with a bunch of foreigners. So we got this cool little house down the road. You took the train, the electric trains in Japan from Yokosuka down to a little beach town called Mirakaigan. And it was at the last stop at this train, went all the way down the coastline. It was about 20, 25-minute ride. And I got an apartment there. And it's funny because the apartment was right next to, the train actually slowed down and stopped, and that was the last stop. And then it would turn around and go all the way back from way down here, all the way to Yokohama, you know, and long, long ways. And so.
How often would the train come?
Oh, every half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. Yeah, there was.
So right by your apartment, did it keep you awake?
Oh shit! Like this next to an airport, but you got used to it, you know. And it was a nice little apartment, and it was funny because if we take the train home, if I had worked till nighttime, whatever, these poor Japanese guys. Japanese were really into, especially businessmen. You know, they'd go and have a few hits before they go home, and have a few pops and get liquored up, and then they get on the train, they'd be in Yokohama and take a ride home. Well, they'd pass out on the train, and I mean, you're talking an hour and a half later, whatever. The train's already, it's at the last stop on the peninsula in Japan, and the conductor would come down with a stick and poke these business guys. They're laying there and would passed out drunk with their suitcases, and I remember getting off the train and go, man, this guy's wife's gonna be pissed. So I remember that was where we lived.
Oh, isn't rent expensive in Japan? I thought Japan was
an
expensive
it was.
Part of
they subsidized maybe a couple $100, maybe they'd subsidize you $50 or $100. I can't remember what the numbers were, but it got us out of there. So we lived in that apartment for a while until the train got to us, and then we found a little house off of this Japanese family a little further up the tracks, owned a really nice home and right on the rice paddies and that, and they had this little mother-in-law, just a little tiny house off of their house, and we rented that from them. They fell in love with my son. My son was this little towhead Gerber kid at the time. She's 45 now, it's hard to believe. But Mama-san was this little old lady bent over in her little sari deal, and she used to carry stuff on her back. She fell in love with my little son, little towhead. So she built a little, like this little bit, twice the size of this table, a little, about 6-inch high. It was supposed to be for washing vegetables. That was the premise that she gave the family, and the family built this thing. Well, it was a swimming pool for my kid. And so she would sit out there and play with my son in this little tiny swimming pool. And I remember, I had a picture about that. I don't know what happened to it. But I did have the Kawasaki at that time because the Kawasaki was parked next to that little pool. I've since over the years lost that. But I do remember that little swimming pool and this little tatami mat little hut that, it wasn't a hut, it was like a decent little house, but spiders as big as your hand crawling around, benjo spiders crawling around that house.
Would you commute back and forth on the motorcycle, or would you take the train?
No, I'd take a train.
Okay.
I'd take a train there. Because you had to go to work, to get to work on time. And at the time, if I had to go, the planes offloaded and went to Atsugi. So I had to go all the way to Yokosuka and then continue on to Atsugi. So it was I'd leave at 4:30 in the morning to get to the base on time at 7 for work. And I had to do that until the ship set sail again. And then when the ship set sail, we'd get on board, of course, and take off and go to parts unknown, Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea. We were all over the place.
Oh, so you get on the ship and go.
Huh?
You were still working on the ship, so you're still sailing.
Oh yeah. We were home ported in Yokosuka.
Oh,
so this
see.
is
Okay.
when we came in from our travels, Vietnam, wherever we were, we come back to home port, which was Japan.
And then how long would you be home for?
Anywhere from a week to no more than a couple of weeks or something.
Well, so you just had some time with your wife. You
Yeah. Yeah. Not enough, because you're always going. I had a picture of the ship and. Japanese. You told me about submarines.
Yeah.
I brought that for you.
Japanese submarine here.
And this is at one point in time, we had some steerage problems on the boat, and it's hard to see, but we went into dry dock.
Yeah, I know dry dock.
Yeah, and that's the midway in dry dock.
Wow.
I wish I had a better picture of it because the screws were 16 feet in diameter, 16, 18 feet. There's 4 of them, and I had to. That was, it says 1974 dry dock.
Let's explain to people that don't know what dry dock is how it actually works. I've been through dry dock on cruise ships, and I'm sure you understand how it's done. It's kind of cool, actually.
Well, it's very cool how they do it. The engineering is they pull it into a lock type of thing, and a huge parking spot, as it were, and put blocks and everything. They have blocks and set up just like they would a car, big. And it's pretty extensive. I mean, you got to figure it's a flipping aircraft carrier, and then they pump the water out so that they can work on the steerage or whatever thing underneath the boat.
Basically, you're parking the ship over a sunken barge.
Exactly.
And you pump the air out of the barge over hours and hours and hours, and slowly that barge lifts up and lifts the entire ship up out of the water.
Well, it's a big lock. I mean, it's big walls in that, and the water goes down, the boat comes down and sits down, and they're on what they've built for it. And it's very, very interesting. I used to walk down the pier and look at the bottom of the ship. After spending all the time, doing what we did on this giant boat, which by those standards it was giant to me. Now, with there's 6,000 guys on the new aircraft carriers. There was 3,000 on this one. Wow. So this is a tiny aircraft carrier. It was actually built in the mid '40s for the war. And the war was over.
That's an old ship.
Oh yeah.
Is it still in service, or is that out of service now?
No, it's like I said, it's a museum.
That's right. You told me I've heard of it.
Yeah, but it was built as a straight deck, which is really interesting.
What does that mean?
The old aircraft carriers before the new ones, now we have angle decks, so the planes can land on the angle deck, and then they taxi over, and you have catapults on the front too, shooting this way. But before that, there was a straight deck ship, and if you Google USS Midway, look at the history of it. It was built as a straight deck, but it was too new to, the war was over, and they figured, well, they decided to put an angle deck on this thing, right, as the years went by. And so, I mean, if you can imagine building an angle deck on an aircraft carrier, that's quite a feat. They put it back in the dry dock, not this time, but earlier, way earlier, and put an angle deck on it. Well, it always had a list to port because of that weight. So they counterbalanced it with the shit ton of weight, ballast on this side, and weight, and to bring this thing so it's level. And that was I couldn't imagine, because when you're on the ship and you're walking all around and see all the stuff that's going, you think they built this angle deck on this boat, and this the engineering that goes into that has always intrigued me.
Incredible.
It's like, wow. And so, I spent a lot of time on that angle deck. I actually got shot off the pointy end of that boat at one time on an airplane. That's a treat. If you've never been on a catapult and been shot off, it's 0 to 150 in 2 seconds.
Were you on a plane or what?
Yeah, I was in an airplane. Yeah, I was in
what kind of plane?
One of the prop jobs or whatever, because I was catching a ride somewhere, and they shoot you off. I did that one time, but even better than that, I was on a twin engine, the same type of mail cod that Bruce was on when he died. And those planes, I remember, they took off on the angle deck, and they'd get all the way in the back of the boat, and there was no cat shot. They just full bore 100%, and this thing's shaking, and you're and like that, you're all strapped to this thing, and you're on the angle deck, so you go, holy shit, we have from here to there to get in the air, and this thing takes off. And I mean, your heart's in your hand. My feet are up off the ground going, oh, my glasses went flying off. And they take off, and as soon as they get the angle deck, the edge, that thing just drops. And I mean, it goes, woo, and you're just, oh, and it catches the air, and then whoop, and away you go and take off. But that was really exciting to do that. My heart was in my hand with that one.
This thing, the first time the pilot tried it, like it's the first time.
Oh yeah,
It must
right?
have been-
Yeah, no catching. We're just going to give you a really hard push and hope the wind catches you.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. And then coming in and catching the wire that was another one. You fly it, and all of a sudden you're going 150, 60. I don't know what the airspeed was, but flying fast enough to keep you in the air, and you're going that fast to nothing from here to that tree over there. It's like whoa. So that was, I had nothing but praise for those pilots. These guys that come and fly these planes in at nighttime was unbelievable. These guys 25 years old flying an F4 Phantom and being able to park that giant monster on that little postage stamp at night.
Wow.
It was insane. These guys are so cool. They're really impressive.
Living in Japan, did you travel around much at all? Get to see much of Japan, the culture?
Yeah, I did a lot.
How did you feel about how were you accepted as being a?
Japan, we were fine.
Because you're only like 20 years after the war, right?
Yeah,
or 30 years after the war.
It was fine. They were appreciating having us there. We were supposed to. That was funny. We were supposed to offload all the weapons before we got into port every time, and we had this little.
Offload the weapons, what do you mean?
Any kind of nukes or any kind of weapon, heavy duty weapon, we were supposed to offload them before we got into port in Japan. And so we would, nighttime, the night before we docked, we'd go out and tinker around out here like we were going to offload all, and then go pull into port,
So you still had them?
Yeah, there was all kinds of stuff like that going on. You offload all the whole, anyway. So as far as Japan goes, I traveled to so many countries. On the boat, it was that opportunity. Everywhere we went, my little buddy and I, we would, most of the boys would take off to the red light district, and my buddies and I would go get immersed in the local cultures, which is what I still do today. And we had so much fun doing that. And so seeing all the different cultures in that, Japan was, it was all right. I went to see the lots of religious.
Shrines and stuff?
Shrines and what have you, and cherry blossoms and teapots and all that kind of stuff. And but as far as it wasn't the Philippines, and the Japanese people were okay, but they were not like the Philippines. There was a lot friendlier places, but that's just the Japanese culture. Japanese are not inherently ha ha ha. They're very proper.
Somebody told me one time that it's like if you live in Japan for years and years, you're never really accepted as a part of the community.
Well, no, not like here.
No,
not at all.
Whereas like here, I feel like even though we're very different in our, lifestyles and everything to a lot of the local people and the things we're interested in, I feel like I'm accepted here.
Well, and you got to figure, we were at war with Japan.
Yeah, within those 20 years before, right?
Yeah, and so the old folks didn't forget
remember,
that.
yeah.
They're still very friendly, but they didn't in the back of their craw. And although there was the Philippine-American War way back when, we were here to help these guys out, and so they kind of welcome you with open arms because they also remember, know. So.
Now, was Japan industrialized? Was it starting? Because I remember I guess it was in the 70s or at least in the 60s that if anything was made in Japan, it was considered cheap.
Oh, absolutely.
But
absolutely, junk.
Was it starting to turn around then in the 70s, or was it still that way?
No, it was still it's still labeled as like nowadays. If something's made in China or Taiwan or whatever, oh man, that's going to last for 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, that was the mindset back then in Japan. Oh, this thing's made in Japan. Although things were changing, you're right, in the 70s, because I remember if you didn't buy a Pentax camera or a Canon camera, you bought a Nakai reel-to-reel, and reel-to-reels were a big thing. I had a big giant, reel to reel, 10-inch reels, and I'm playing all my music, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I've actually brought that back to the States with me.
Well, they made some really good cars back then too, like the Toyota Celica came out, you know, and
Yeah.
Nissan 3000 or Nissan 240Z. And
Yeah, well, that was
there were
70s,
some good
75.
cars coming out.
Some
Toyota
really
Land
nice
Rover,
cars.
Land Cruiser.
And my car, yeah, my car, I had a car in Japan. I remember that. I had a little, it was like a little Fiat, little tiny, little bubble car. And it had it wasn't a Suzuki, but it had a 500 three-cylinder or two-cylinder 500 two-stroke motor. Little tiny car. And I remember I bought it for $120 or something. But I remember you start this thing, it reminded me of my old Yamaha. You'd start this thing, ring, ding, 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 ring, ding, 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 and then you're driving obviously on the wrong side of the car, on the right side, and you're shifting with your left hand. So you had to get used to that. And I got this little, you know, soapbox derby car with a 500cc two-stroke in it. But, you know, got us around, got us to the base and bounced around. Again, the fact that they just let you drive, you know, if you had an American driver's license, they just say, okay, and they gave you your thing, you could drive. And the fact that they let you out in the street to drive and not, you know, it's so insanely dangerous and weird over there, especially for a foreigner to all of a sudden go from the left side to the right side, and the signals and the people coming out of the gas stations, and it was just like, every time
everything's in Japanese too. Did they have English signs back then, like road
no,
signs?
no, everything was, you know. I mean, every time I got home, I'd look at my eyes and say, I cheated death again. I made it.
Yeah.
So
They made some good motorcycles back in the 70s, though. Japanese motorcycles, like
the best.
Suzuki's, Hondas, Yamahas, they were all good.
Yeah, no, my KZ was a great bike, and one of your viewers were talking, read and posted that. Oh yeah, he remembers the
That's Mac.
750 Water Buffalo, and that's what I have that picture someplace. Me sitting on my grandfather's. One of my bikes my grandfather had was a blue and white 750 Honda Suzuki first water cooled bike. And they called it the Water Buffalo. So when I saw that in your comment section, I go, oh, he knows. Yeah. But so many great bikes back then. Somebody else mentioned the Kawasaki 500 triple that came out. There's this dangerous rocket ship that vibrates your teeth. But so much fun those bikes were in those days.
So what did you do with the motorcycle when you decided to leave?
In Japan?
Yeah.
I took it with me. That KZ, I shipped it back to the States.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. That was my baby, man.
Now,
the military helped you ship your stuff
they
home.
would.
So I shipped this thing, and I remember when I got to Oakland, California, I don't know how much months later, whatever, I went into the storage, and they'd only broken a mirror off, and it just dusty, but they hadn't smashed it all to hell. I remember sitting it strapped down in this pallet, and I went to this warehouse and found it. Oh my God, it made it, right? Oh, I made it. I only have to replace one mirror, you know, everything else wasn't dented or beat up. That's a long transit, you know, especially in those days, they didn't care. So I got my Kawasaki, and then, you know, you saw the pictures of it, and I used that to commute around a lot. And then after I sold that, I ended up...
Why'd you get rid of it? It's such a great bike. I mean, why'd you sell it?
I don't know. I probably needed money. I went through a divorce, and, you know, I paid for my kids. And my daughter was born when I got back in the States, in San Diego during that time in Miramar. My daughter was born in Balboa, my sweet Christy. She's 43 years old now. I got two beautiful granddaughters.
I remember Balboa. I liked it there. I used to live real near there.
Yeah, it's
nice park, Balboa Park.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So, you know, then you get divorced and you got to pay and take care of your kids and do your thing, and so, you know, life goes on. Now that I have a new family here, you know, it's kind of a funny deal that we're doing that here, like we said, living in this beautiful area, and I got my little Filipino family and all the Filipino kids that go with that are so much fun.
Like hitting the reset button on life, huh?
It is crazy. Like I said, I wouldn't have bet $1 million that I'd be sitting here especially not in the beach. You know, I was going to retire at the beach and surf until I croaked, and here I am up in the mountain, in the jungles, just loving life. You know, with good friends and great family, and doesn't get any better. How can we complain? And what day is this? Today is Friday?
Today's Friday, yeah.
I can't even keep track of the days anymore. I can tell you if it's Monday,
Have you noticed
Friday?
that since you've been here, you get the illusion that time's going by very quickly?
Oh my gosh.
It's like
the weeks are going by.
Yeah, I wake up and like it's Monday and then it's Sunday, you know, it just flies by.
What happened to the week?
I can't believe like the summer's over. It's just boom, it's gone.
Yeah, well I can't keep track of the time, much less the seasons. I cast in, I go, so it's raining, if it keeps raining, because I thought rainy season was already rainy season in April, May, June. She goes, well, yeah, babe, that's the rainy season, but right now there's the other rainy season because we're just having some more rainy season. I said, okay.
Yeah, I like the rainy season.
I love it. I love it.
I love it. It's so cool.
And the kids the other day on this road and all the water washing down the hill, like torrential, you know how torrential it gets, especially in front of my house. And it was like this river, and the 3 little Filipino kids laying in the street, and the water just cascading over the top of them. And they're just having, I hear this laughter out in the street. And it's pouring rain. I mean, you know, it's tropical rain. And they're out in the street just having a ball, laying in the gutter in the water.
Yeah, the kids don't stay inside when it rains here. They're outside in the pouring rain, playing like no shirts on. Doesn't bother them a bit.
I came from Ted's house during the last one here a few days ago. And I said, oh man, it's starting to rain. Ted, you know, living right here. We're at the top of the hill, by the way, so this is very tropical. And Ted right here, I said, oh, it's starting to rain. I got to get home. You know, and how far is my house? 2 clicks, not even. I didn't make a half a click, and it just poured. I was pouring so bad I couldn't see it. I'm on her little scooter, and it's pouring. And you know, as you come up that one steep corner, that guy has that really nice house down here, and he's got that nice covered pad. And I pull into that thing, and I'm just like, you threw a bucket of water on me. And as I came around the corner, and I have these three or four kids are walking down the street, and they're just, you know, in the pouring rain. So I passed them, I pulled in this thing, and it's got corrugated roof just like this, and it's literally like a waterfall coming off this roof. I'm looking at it, and the kids come out, and they're looking at me laughing because I get up and I'm looking, you know, Filipino kids are so cute. I'm wringing out my shirt, and they're laughing, and as they walk by, they're looking like, look at the white Ford, or he got wet, right? And you can tell what they're saying. So I took, and I just walked over to that waterfall, and I stuck my head in it, and I was standing with this just torrential coming off the roof, and then I looked at him, and he like, oh my God, they laugh so hard. I love the Filipino kids; they're hilarious.
So sweet, yeah.
So, but I love living on this mountain. But you know, it's a great choice. If I do move, I won't ever move, I don't think. But we'll travel. You know, the good part is we're in a central part of the Philippines. That if you want to travel, if they ever lift the COVID up and let us travel a bit, you know, we can motorcycle and moto off of here and ferry to wherever we want to go, but we always be able to come home.
I want to share where we're at Casarora Falls here. You see right there? It's beautiful. It's one of the largest waterfalls in the Philippines, and right below where we're standing are stairs that go all the way down to this incredible waterfall. If we went down there right now, chances are we'd have it all to ourselves.
Oh yeah.
There'd be nobody there but us.
Yeah, because the parking lot's empty.
Yeah, our parking lot's empty.
And this restaurant is empty. This is a beautiful little restaurant. Good choice for an interview, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, the motorcycles and
the trucks and the tricycles and
fire trucks, tricycles.
And the people that just walk and want to start talking to you. They see you're filming, they start talking.
Yeah, well, you know, that's human nature in this place. Everybody's happy and wants to say hello. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap this one up. Thanks a lot. That was great stories. You know, I hope you can remember something else for another time.
You know, and a couple of your viewers pointed out, a couple mistakes in there, and the helicopter H3 or S3, and I'm thinking, but he followed it up perfectly. He goes, but given his age, I said, guess what? I can't find
over 40 years ago.
I can't find my car keys, much less remember. Anyway, thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.